All right. Well, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us during this lovely Sunday afternoon. I hope that you've all enjoyed the Toronto Blockchain Week, and so we thought that ending that week on with the presentation on an application that is basically geared towards the youngsters, the next generation, the Generation Z. Was a good idea. So I hope you will be able to really enjoy this presentation. So before I begin, usually for the webinars, what I do is I'll present myself, then I'll introduce the Innovative Financier for those who don't know about our organization, and then I introduce the speaker of today. But we've just launched a new explainer video that basically says everything that you need to know, or most of the things that you need to know, the sort of elevator pitch of the organization, of the Innovative Financier organization. And so before we begin, before we even start talking any further, I think that it would be a good idea to premiere it to you guys. So you guys are very are special guests of ours today. And so just please bear with me while I play the video. And if you miss anything, you'll be able to see it, to watch it again on our YouTube page. And it's just a 2-minute video. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and play it for you. Enjoy it. Can you hear? Can you hear it? You cannot hear? All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I hope you're able to hear the music. But if you are not, later on, I will be sharing the link so you can go and watch the video again. But the writing were pretty self-explanatory. So the Innovative Financier is a not-for-profit group, and we aim to provide an information hub at the nexus of finance, investment, and obviously innovation. My name is doe-bruce, and I am the founder of the Innovative Financier, and I'm also the founder of a consulting agency called Innovative Financier. So today we have the pleasure of welcoming Ahmad Sghaier. Ahmad, please correct me if I've massacred your name, but Ahmad is is a PhD in training at the University of Waterloo in engineering, and he's also a developer. He's been working with a couple of blockchain companies in the space here in Toronto, and he's also working he's also the founder of KiddoBank, so that is his own product. So without any further ado, I will let Ahmad go ahead and share his knowledge and experience of this amazing technology with us.
Thank you, Thalia. Hopefully, I'm connected.
So we can hear you. So you just need to launch your video. Launch your video so we could see your face.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, okay. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Thalia, for arranging this. So we'll talk today about a project that I started a couple of months ago called KiddoBank, and it's targeting kids and youth and trying to accelerate the adoption of cryptocurrency among this user segment. We will walk through the KiddoBank project and what's the mission and how it works, etc. But then I will try to walk through how to build a mobile app on blockchain, specifically on EOS and the Kin blockchain. We'll use a cross-platform framework called the Ionic framework, which we will talk about how to start a project, how to build it, and we will try to build a simple app, not from scratch, but at least to show the flow. So Thalia did the job of introducing who I am. I'm almost finishing my PhD at the University of Waterloo, but I work as a blockchain developer on Ethereum, Stellar, Hyperledger, and I work with a couple of companies here in Waterloo as well in Toronto. Kids nowadays have been introduced to money. They usually start learning about money at the age of 6 or maybe a little bit above, either in education in school, or what happens in offering them allowances and giving them money by parents. So parents try to look at different tools on how to establish these habits, and I'm telling this based on an experience that I have with 3 kids. So we tried Athalia, is it working now? Okay, so parents try the different ways to establish the habits of teaching kids about finance tools and boost their knowledge about this. We have different type of digital money nowadays. The kids may be more acquainted with the plastic cards, credit cards, etc. But there is limited introduction to the one of the forms of digital money that we will see in the future will become as a mainstream, which is cryptocurrency. So there is a lack of adoption of cryptocurrency among kids and youth, while they are the future generation. They are the ones who will be using this technology at the end. And that's maybe because of how most of the cryptocurrency foundations and company are addressing the market. They are more focused on making this making money, profit, and not considering how to engage the different user segments, especially this important segments represented by kids and youth. So for that, I started this project, which is KiddoBank. it's a cryptocurrency. It's a digital piggy bank to prepare kids for the future of money, which includes cryptocurrency. It's backed by a cryptocurrency, which will allow parents and kids to engage in an interactive way, and we will see through the demo, and even educational way, to prepare them to learn about how to earn money, how to set targets, how to spend that money to achieve certain targets, etc. So the ultimate goal is to boost the adoption of cryptocurrency among kids by providing them with a cryptocurrency app that directed solely towards them. So it's an app that will teach kids how to engage with cryptocurrency, but also will teach them other financial habits as well. So what features does it offer right now? So it's sort of a family wallet. So parents will set up accounts for their kids, and even they can engage other family members to build like a kid circle. Other family members can include grandparents who live away, or maybe family friends, very close family friends, or other family members that parents would like to share this experience with. The kids will enjoy the learning and using the application, and that will happen by achieving certain tasks. So once they achieve certain tasks, parents will reward them with cryptocurrency. Those rewards, they can use it later on to use it to set goals and track the progress on how much they have collected to reach a certain goal. When we started back in December 2018, we chose the EOS blockchain. So for anyone who is not familiar with the EOS blockchain, it's a blockchain that was launched almost a year ago right now, and it's very famous of their ICO that was run over 12 months. But EOS blockchain has some advantages. It runs a delegated proof of stake consensus algorithm, and it offers some nice features. One of them is that it has zero fee transactions. So specifically for this kind of applications where you have microtransactions happening, you don't want to use a blockchain technology where the fees are high, because that will be even higher than the actual amount of the transaction itself. So we opted for EOS at the beginning because of this, and also because it allows some nice capability of how to manage accounts. Parents would like to get their kids engaged into this technology, but we know that there are certain things that in blockchains, specifically how to maintain your accounts, how to save your private keys, etc. These things maybe kids will not be so familiar with, and losing the private key of an account means losing the whole account and all the funds in that account. So EOS offers this capability of active key and owner key, which will allow the parent to have some control over the account and have a capability of safe retrieval of lost kids' account active keys. How it works, so we say that parents will start by building their wallets, and then they create kids accounts and create them also the blockchain accounts. Once they do that, parents then can start connecting other family members and grow the circle, the kid circle, to include other family members in the circle. So this is the first part. We can consider it sort of the socializing step here, where you create accounts, you connect other family members who are in the network, and build the kid circle. Then parents, once they created the different kid accounts, they can start setting tasks for kids to accomplish. Each task, they will define a certain reward. So that will teach kids how to earn earn money or cryptocurrency based on work that you do. But also it will allow them also to turn those daily chores into some funny and rewarding activity as well. So it provides this engagement and interaction between the kids and the parents. Once kids start collecting, they can then build some goals and start to see how they can achieve those goals. Once they reach that mark, they can redeem that collected fund through their parents. To be able to show you how this works, we will try to go through this through the app itself. So this is the version of the KiddoBank that runs on the Kin blockchain, which we launched just a few weeks ago. There was this Kin developer program competition we participated in, and we were the first to launch our app on the Google Play Store. So I will go right now and log in with the parent account. Once we log in, we will see the dashboard, which we can then use either to create new kids accounts, add tasks to an existing kid, view the different kid accounts that a parent has created, send funds to some accounts. And there are two features that we added in the Kin version of the app, which we will talk about a little bit later, but it's a way of how we can recognize achievement of kids, not just with money or cryptocurrency, but with what they call non-fungible tokens. So in this case here, we have some badges. So parents can buy some badges from the marketplace, and then if the kid has achieved certain tasks, they can assign this badge to the kid. So we will see first maybe creating a kid account. So once we start creating a kid account, it will ask us to create the blockchain wallet. We will create the wallet. So this will generate all the private keys and contact the blockchain. We will give it a name, test kid one, and give it a pin for the kid later on to use. There are some avatars that we can choose, some of them for to represent this kid, and then we create the kid account. So once that's done, maybe we can go and add a task to the kid. We can select the kid account that we have just created, create a task, maybe clean your room. If we'd like to give any comment, we can write it here, and then we can define a reward. So here we give it one kin for this reward. Add task. Okay, so add task has been added. Then we can go to the different kids accounts that we have. So if we click on the latest one that we have created, then we can see that this is the new kid account. It has the initial fund for just creating an account. This is the public key or the address of the account on the blockchain. Here we can see the tasks that has been created for the kid. So we can see that the kid now has one task called clean your room, created by this account, which is the parent, and has this value. So the parent right now can have only the capability to delete the task, but once the kid has achieved this task or performed this task, those two buttons will be active to either approve the task or reject it. Maybe we can go to another account that might have some tasks. Okay, so this one has already been approved, so also it can be only deleted, but we will see the whole flow. So this is just to show how we create an account for the kid and how to assign them tasks. We can switch to the kid view. So let's now try that the kid who we just created. Now we'll try to log in, or another kid, maybe kid 4. So we just log in to this kid account, and the kid will have a different view. So it will see all the tasks assigned to the kid. It will see the goals set by the kid and how many, how much it has progressed. So this task this goal will require, for example, 0.5 kin to buy it. But the kid account, if we go to the wallet, we will see that it doesn't have the enough amount. So it will show us sort of a progress on how much more needed to collect to achieve this goal, and then maybe redeem the funds to get it. The kid can create a new goal, maybe buy a new sticker, and define how much it will cost, maybe 2 kin, and maybe they can define what kind of sticker is that by writing the comments. So hitting submit will create a new goal. So if we refresh, we will see that we see a new goal here with this value with 16% progress, because the kid now has 0.3 something kin. The other funny way, and educational, is that we have added quizzes. So kids can answer quizzes, and once they answer quizzes, they will get a reward for that one. The parents will actually design those quizzes. So if we switch back to the parent account, if we switch here, we see here 2 things: marketplace and assets. So assets, it's what the parent can create. So the parent can create any quiz. So they can maybe what's the square root of 25, and they can give different answer: 50, 5, 25, and the parent will have to define which answer is correct, which is number 2. Now they have created a new quiz. Now the parent can assign this quiz to one kid, and which will reward them with this amount. So by clicking sign, we select the new kid account that we have created, select. So now if we go back to this kid account, and we go to quizzes, we will see that this kid has now a new quiz set up. So they can go and try to take the quiz and answer it. At the same time, as we mentioned, we can go to the tasks. So now we see that this kid has a task which is open to clean your room. So if the kid would like to see that, to tell the parent that they have completed this task, they will hit on done, a confirmation required, confirm. So now the task is done. Switch back again to the parent account. So this actually can run in separate devices. So the parent can have a separate app, and the kid have a different app. So now if we go back to the parent view, go to that kid, to the tasks, we see that this task is done, and now the parent can either reject it or approve it. So once approve it, it will transfer the selected amount here to the kid. So now the task is approved, and that amount has been transferred to this kid account. So we will see that this kid now has 1.01 kin, and we will see this transaction here. So all these transactions are actually registered in the blockchain, which is actual live in the kin blockchain. So if we go here, that's the transaction that we talked about. It has sorry, I have to refresh. So that's the transaction that has just been done in the app. So this is the parent account, and it has sent one kin to this kid account. So that's GB2A, GB2O. So that show us how all these things are performed in the app to allow parents to interact with kids, to teach them the value of money, and also to introduce them to cryptocurrency. Another feature that we will discuss later, which is what we call non-fungible tokens, which is a way on how we represent badges and stickers as non-fungible tokens on the blockchain. So we will leave these two features later on once we discuss them in the presentation, and then come back and discuss them and see how they work here in the app. So we will go back to the presentation. So as we mentioned, the KiddoBank now runs on two blockchains, two versions actually, the EOS version, and there's the Kin blockchain version. And building a mobile app to work with different blockchains, it's not really maybe an easy task, but thanks to the different libraries introduced by these different blockchains, we can build mobile apps using cross-platform frameworks, which we will discuss later on and see how it's easy to build a mobile app that will target both iOS and Android devices at the same time. So both blockchains, they offer JavaScript library. The EOS.js library is a stable, it has a stable release. It's used extensively to build number of web and mobile apps. The Kin.js library has just been introduced. KiddoBank was the only app till now that has used this library to build a complete functioning mobile app. But they are working on releasing the final version and the stable version, I think, soon, where they will have a Kin SDK, a Kin.js SDK library to build web and cross-platform mobile apps.
Okay, so let's take it, before you move to the next slide,
yeah.
Let's take just 1 minute to see if there are any questions from the attendees. Guys, so if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat section of this webinar, and I will repeat them to Ahmad. So if you have any questions on anything that has been discussed in the past half hour, please type them. Just wait for a few minutes, Ahmad. Okay, so there are no questions, that's good. So there will also be a poll that will be sent out just to assess the level of knowledge of the attendees and also the knowledge of the level of interest. So when you see the poll, please go ahead and respond to it. All right, Ahmad, please continue. Thank you.
All right, so as we mentioned, building dApps, or what they call decentralized apps on blockchain, usually it's done through web apps, and those JavaScript libraries provided with like Ethereum, like the Web3.js library, or the EOS.js, or the Kin.js that will be the stable release will be soon available, will allow us to build web apps, but at the same time, using cross-platform frameworks, we can also build mobile apps. So I will take the second part of the presentation. To show how we can build mobile apps using a cross-platform framework and access the different blockchains that we mentioned here, EOS and Kin. So the cross-platform framework that we were going to be discussing is called the Ionic framework. It's an open source framework for developing hybrid mobile apps based on knowledge. So all the knowledge required is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Ionic framework is actually following the Angular framework. So all the Ionic releases, they follow the new Angular releases. Now, the latest release in Ionic is Ionic 4, which is based on Angular 6. So Ionic framework will allow us to develop different cross-platform apps that are similar to a native iOS or Android. But the good thing, since Ionic 3, I think, and even right now in Ionic 4, using the same code base, you can even build a desktop app and the web app. So with one code base, you can target different platforms: mobile, desktop, and web. And for the mobile, iOS and Android; for the desktop, Windows, Linux, and Mac. So one code base you can easily maintain. So what's some of the advantages of cross-platform development framework over native development is that to develop on all these different platforms, so you need someone proficient in each of these platforms required, which sometimes something that you cannot have. Also, to maintain one project, in that case, if you are developing in a native development, then you need to maintain different code bases. So that will turn it into a little bit of a timely and expensive process. But with cross-platform frameworks, that will be a single code base that you maintain. Maybe it will require a little bit of change in the config files or something, but that's all needed to build once for Android and another time for iOS, and then maybe to turn it into a desktop app. So the current release, the latest one is Ionic version 4, and as we mentioned, it was since Ionic 1, Angular has been the center of what makes Ionic. Ionic 4 provides many new nice features. It has continuous development, continuous integration pipeline, as well as they have launched their own Ionic IDE, which I think is still in alpha, but soon will be released. So the whole DevOps operation in Ionic starts to get mature, and support for recently it's not only supporting Angular but also supporting other web frameworks. React is one of them as well. So React Native is considered another cross-platform development framework for mobile apps, but Ionic has now even introduced support for React as well. So how to get started with Ionic? So all you need is the latest Node.js and NPM installed. Then you need to install Ionic. So that's the command to install Ionic. Once you install the Ionic, you can start building your first Ionic app. So you can use this command, Ionic start. You can name the app, what's the app name, and then you can choose one of the available templates. So maybe the mostly used ones, even a blank starter, a blank template. So nothing there, you have to build everything from scratch, or a tab starter or a side menu starter. There are other templates available, but these may be the most used ones. Once you created the app, then you cd into the directory, and you write Ionic serve, and your app will be launched in the browser as the first app. Building your app for Android is also a nice, easy process. So first, you need to generate the release build for the Android, the APK file. So that's the command to launch to generate the APK file. Once you generate the APK file, you need to generate the private key for signing the app. And then you go ahead and use the jar signer command to sign the unsigned APK. So this is the command. And then you use the zip align tool to optimize the APK. The result of this is the APK that you can upload to the Google Play and launch your app on the Google Play. For iOS, it's also has become more easier than it was in Ionic version 1, Ionic version 2. So more integration with the Xcode. So now all you have to do is to add the iOS platform to the Ionic project if it's not already added. Then you build for iOS with the tag production. That will create the Xcode workspace file. Once that's created, you need to open that file in the Xcode and then just proceed with the regular iOS flow to publish an app on the App Store. So that makes it really easy to build mobile apps for both iOS and Android using the same code base to target different platforms at the same time. To show that, I will show a simple example on how to build maybe a Kin wallet. So this is a wallet for the Kin blockchain. I'll try. I didn't want to take a lot of time starting from scratch. So what I did, I created the code. So we will walk through the code, how it's structured, and maybe that will give you even a little bit of a flavor on how the Ionic framework. If you are familiar with Angular, you'll see that it's almost an Angular project with some wrappers, especially in the UI part. This is the ultimate. This is the final project. So that's a simple wallet that will allow you to import an existing account. So you hit import, you enter the private key of the account, and once you import that, you will see you have the public key of the account, the balance of the account, and maybe a capability to send funds from this account to any other account. So we saw that we have a few screens here: the login, the import, and the main screen, which will show the balance of the account and the capability to send some funds. So we will go to the code to see how is that built. In Ionic project, the source directory will be the one that will contain all the files that you will be using for coding. All those will be also in the app directory. So here we will see the different views. Each one of them, if you go, you will find the HTML page, which will show you how it will look like. So there is nothing in the about page. Maybe we can go to the login page. So this is the login page, which will show us we have an image, which is the Kin logo, and then we have an item that has just here an icon for a lock, which will represent the password, and a button for the login operation. Also, we have here another label. So you have an existing account, and then the ion button, which will be for the import function. All of this is a TypeScript, so you can see here we have in the class of login page, which implements certain imports from the Ionic Angular from the Angular core. We have a constructor, so if you would like to do any initialization or to import some of the Ionic Angular modules here. And once the page is initiated, you can do maybe enabling of the menu, and the two commands here, the do login, the login page will take you to the home page, and the import one will take you to the import page. So if we go to the import page, the same thing we will see here. It will ask us about entering the private key. So if we go back here, so that will be the label, and then here an input field and the button. So that's the label, the input field for the key, and the button to perform the import operation. And if we go to the code for the import operation, so that's where we start playing around with the kin.js library. So here we are importing the kin.js library for the key pair, which to create the private public key pair, the kin wallet, the kin network, and the create wallet. So these are going to be used here. So once we click on import keys, we call the get wallet function, which will first create us a key pair from the private key that we have entered. We set the network to the value that we have defined in the settings service. So it's this one. So here we have defined our main network.
All right, so can we just take, I'm sorry to cut you off, Ahmad,
yeah.
But I just want to take a quick minute to ensure that your screen, the correct screen is actually being shared with the attendees, because right now it only shows a static slide. It says, let's build a kin wallet, and that's all we see right now.
Okay. Oh, I thought that it's already sharing the code, the screen which has the code.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see it right now?
No, so we still see only, okay, now we see it, thank you. Because I think that this might actually help understand what you're talking about.
That's what I intended. I thought that I'm still sharing the same screen. Yeah.
No, it's okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so I'll go back. I'll try to explain from the beginning the structure of the app. So this is the code for a simple kin wallet. So it has a login page, an import page, and the home page, which will include the main screen for viewing the wallet balance, as well as the giving the capability to send funds. So let's start with the import page. So the import page here, this is the HTML part, which will show us a label to ask the user to enter the kin account, and then an input field to enter the private key, and then a button which will link to this function import keys. So if we go to the TypeScript code or the JavaScript code here, we will see that we are having a class for the import page, and we are calling this function import keys, which will call the function get wallet. So this is the main function here, the get wallet, which will rely on the kin.js library. So this is the kin.js library that will interface with the kin blockchain. So the first thing, it will ask, using the private key that we have entered, it will create a key pair, the private and the public key, and it will be assigned to this variable called keys. Then we need to define the network that we will gonna use, because it can be a test network or a main network. So here we have defined the service called settings, and in that one, we have defined the network as the production network, the main network, and it has a specific URL. So now we created the keys using the key pair from the kin.js library. We defined which network. Now we create the wallet. So we create the wallet based on those key pairs. On that key pair, and for the main network. Once we created this, we need to save that into the settings. So we need to set our wallet as this new created wallet, and we set our secret key and public key to be used later on. So once we finalize the import, we will go to the home page. So the home page will be the page where we will view the account, its balance, and so this will show us the public key truncated, just to show the first few letters, and then will show us the balance. And then we have a section where we will perform the transfer operation from one account to another. So we need the recipient address, we need the amount, a memo if we need to add that, and then the button to call the send funds function. If we go to the main code here, we will see that in this method here, this is the one which when the page is loaded, we are calling a function, an API, a RESTful API to get the KIN balance. So that will just a RESTful API to retrieve the KIN balance and then display it in the balance field. If we are to send funds, then we are going to be using again the KIN.js library to send funds from one account to another. So first is just an alert controller. Use it to ask the user if it's confirmed that they want to send this specified amount or not. Once that's done, so Ionic has a number of components to represent all this UI, such as the alert controller that we've seen here, or a loader to show the spinning, etc. But all of this is the UI part. But here we call the KIN, we use the KIN.js library to interact and send the transaction. So this is the code to send the transaction from one account to another. So first you need to load the account, which you will use to send funds. Then you start building a transaction. So it has a number of steps. If you would like to set a timeout, you set the timeout. Then you define what's the operation, because the KIN blockchain, which is based on Stellar, has a number of operations that you can perform. So here we are setting the operation to payment. We are defining the destination, so the address we want to send to, what asset we would like to send. So because as we said, KIN is based on Stellar, so in Stellar you can have different assets. However, KIN has only one asset, which is the native asset, the KIN coin. Then we define the amount. If we would like to add a memo, we define the memo, and then we build the transaction. So by this, we are creating the transaction object. Now we have to sign the transaction object. So we are calling the function transaction sign, and we're going to using the private key of the user. So we are using, we're creating the key pair again from the private key and signing the transaction. Once that's done, now we are going to submit the transaction to the blockchain. So here we are submitting the transaction and waiting. If there's no error, then we are just dismissing the loader and the function is completed. And if there is an error, then we can display the error or just maybe ignore it. So in this case, we do not display anything, but just we show that whether the transaction is performed or not. Probably I didn't share the other screen at the beginning, so I'll try to share how this will look like. So this is the app, how it will look like. So we're having the login screen, and if we go to import, then we can add the private key and import it here. If we have already imported this, we can just log in. Then we see the public key of the account, the balance. So this is retrieved through the RESTful API, and this is the transfer this is the section where we can define the recipient address, specify an amount, and perform the transaction. And so all of that is done simply with this code that we have showed. Yeah. So this is a simple wallet. I wanted to give you how easy to build a simple wallet using the Ionic framework with few lines of code. So import, that's the code required to import a wallet. Send funds, that's the code required to send the transaction from one account to another. And this is the code required to retrieve the balance. Actually, this is a RESTful API. So here we have a service called API, which calls a get command to this URL. As I mentioned, the Kin team are finalizing the Kin.js, so this is soon will not be required to call the RESTful API endpoint, but you can use the Kin.js SDK to query balance and display it. I will try to go back. So going through this, is there any questions, Ophelia, that regarding this part before we move to the last part? Okay, I don't see questions here in the chat section, so probably I'll go back to the presentation to discuss about the last. Hopefully you are now seeing the presentation, right? So we'll talk about the last part, which is non-fungible token. So in blockchain, there are two types of assets. There's tokens that we know of, like any cryptocurrency. And all these tokens that were launched on the different blockchains, especially the Ethereum blockchain. But there is another asset that we can represent on blockchain. And that asset is called non-fungible token. Probably the best example of this is the CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties is a game that was launched on the Ethereum blockchain in 2017 that has actually caused some problems for the Ethereum blockchain when it first launched, since it has slowed down the network due to the number of transactions that were performed. But the essence of CryptoKitties is that you are representing different kitties with different features, different characteristics, that each one of them is unique. And to represent them on the blockchain, they represented them as what they call non-fungible tokens. So what's fungible and non-fungible? So when assets all, they have the same value, there's nothing to differentiate one asset from another, they are called fungible. So that's the best example for that is the US dollar. So if you have $1, it doesn't matter if it's this bill or that bill. The value is the same still. So if I pay $1 to a merchant and then I go and get $1 from the bank, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it represents this value. But for non-fungible tokens, the assets are unique. So if I get this asset versus that asset, they are not the same. So maybe a good way to give an example, if we have those tennis balls, and those tennis balls, they are all the same. But if it's signed by maybe Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal or one of those guys, then there's an additional attribute added to that ball. So now that ball is unique and is not anymore equal in value to the other balls. So that's what's non-fungible token is. It's a way to represent assets that they have different characteristics, different features that will make them unique. And blockchain is a good tool to represent that, especially for all those digital assets. So it has started with games. So these are some of the maybe examples. So this is called Decentraland. It's a virtual reality environment where you own lands, you can build on top of it, and all of that is represented through non-fungible tokens, or what they call them NFTs. This is another example called Zero X Universe. So it's a space game, space strategy game, where you can conquer planets and use them. And even you can go back to the same collectibles that we had in the past and then digitize them. So this is a Major League Baseball champions, which will represent the different players. And they have some interesting features of linking this to the actual games running. But just to give you a flavor, what's NFTs and how they are represented on blockchain. And the first way of introducing how non-fungible tokens to be represented was through what they call the ERC 721 standard. So this is an Ethereum standard that was started in Ethereum, but then replicated into other blockchains. Neo, EOS, and some others are using the same standard. So the goal of having the standard is to create a way where we can easily trade those tokens and build marketplaces to use them. Why I'm introducing NFTs? Because in KiddoBank we use the NFTs as well. Why we use the NFTs? Because kids would need to be recognized not just by giving them cryptocurrency against performing certain tasks, but sometimes the recognition can be through other ways. Like the way we thought of this is using NFTs. So badges specifically. So the parents can buy some badges that are available in the marketplace, or they can create them and then assign them to kids once they perform maybe certain tasks. The other way we used NFTs is to represent stickers. So the way we thought of this is that kids will need to have a way on how to spend their money in the digital marketplace. The first product that we thought of is stickers. So these stickers, in the future, we are thinking of how to integrating them with some messaging apps, at least for now, the Kik messaging app. So kids, they can accumulate some kin and then buy this sticker. Once they own it, they can use it to inside the messaging app to send it to other colleagues or to even trade it on a marketplace. When we launched it on EOS, we launched NFTs using the same ERC 721 standard with only one modification, which is to allow parents to create their own NFTs. So the parent will design any badge they think of, pay for creating that asset on the blockchain, because the EOS blockchain, you need to pay for RAM memory to create this asset and store it. So they create the asset, they pay for it, they own it. Now they can assign it to the kid if they achieve something. On Kin, the story was different. So we didn't have the capability to implement ERC 721 because in Stellar and in Kin, there's limited smart contract capability. Actually, Kin, they turned off the whole smart contract capability. So we represented this using accounts. There was one proposal back in 2018 by a guy called Sten to represent NFTs on Stealer. We used almost the same proposal, but we added few things on how we can check the integrity of the asset. So what we are using, we are create for each new token, non-fungible token, which is a badge, for example, we are creating a new account on the blockchain. And once we create that account on the blockchain, we handle the change of ownership from the parent to the kid by changing the signing key. So if the parent is assigning the badge to the kid, so we are removing the parent private key from the signing authority and putting the child key in the signing authority. So now the kid is the only one who can have control over the account. Those non-fungible tokens, which are badges, they need some other metadata. So the metadata might include the name of the badge, any description, an image, or a URI for that image. So that metadata is actually stored off-chain, but to check the integrity, we hash the metadata and add it as a memo to the creation of the account. So that will confirm if this metadata is linked to that NFT on the blockchain or not. So to show you how that is represented, I'll try to go back to the app. So this is, so when we discussed lately about the marketplace and the assets, so in the marketplace, we have this pinned tab here where we have different badges. Those badges are created by the administrators of KiddoBank, but parents can buy those if they have the amount corresponding to each one of those assets. So let's go here maybe to the profile of this account and see if they own any. So they don't have any, but I think one of the kids already has been assigned.
Okay, so as we are moving to the third portion of this webinar, are there any questions for Ahmad?
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and ask. We'll wait for just a few seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, to see if for the second half, for the past 30 minutes, if you have any further questions, please go ahead and type that into the chat. Okay, so there are no questions, and Ahmad, please continue. Thank you.
Yeah. So
actually, hold on. Sorry, yeah. Hold on. So there is a question that just came in, and the question is, why didn't you use an ERC20 token?
Okay, yeah, ERC20 tokens we will run on Ethereum. So if we are going to use them for as the token for transactions, we have to use the Ethereum network. And we mentioned at the beginning, those are microtransactions that are happening between a parent and a kid. So they are usually in a small amount. So if we're going to use the Ethereum network, that will have a high cost in terms of the transaction fees. To represent the other assets, which are the badges, we described the difference between fungible and non-fungible. So to represent badges or stickers using ERC20, that's not possible because ERC20 tokens are only for fungible tokens. But going back, why we are not using an ERC20 token for the actual transaction medium on the in the app, it's because of the transaction fees that are high in Ethereum, which might not be suitable for microtransactions.
Okay, thank you. And are you able to Yes, so thanks. So are you able to say approximately what was the comparative cost between a transaction in your app using the Ethereum platform versus maybe the Kin blockchain or the
Okay.
EOS blockchain?
Yeah.
Are
So
you able to? Yeah.
yeah, for EOS, the transaction cost is actually zero. For Kin, it's really small. It's 0.001 Kin, which is, if you convert it to dollars, it's 10 to the power of -8, probably. But the other thing is that in the Kin blockchain, if you are a registered app with the Kin Foundation, then they will put you in the whitelist. So all these transactions will actually turn into zero fees. On the Ethereum network, the transactions we know in the Ethereum network that it depends on the gas that you define. So the cost right now, I don't know how much, but it can go up to a few dollars, right? The transaction cost in Ethereum. So handling micro transactions will not be feasible for an application like this.
Mm-hmm. And it also helps that on the EOS platform, the consensus mechanism is actually not proof of work, but it's the delegated proof of stake, right?
Correct. Yeah.
What is the consensus mechanism on the Kin blockchain?
The Kin blockchain, it's based on Stellar. Let me try to to remind myself of what's the consensus algorithm in Stellar. I'm not sure.
But
Probably
it's not proof of work, is it?
no,
Not proof of work, right?
not proof of work.
Okay.
Practical Byzantine fault tolerance consensus.
Okay.
Probably. I'm not quite sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. In any case, guys, so I will be posting the link again on in the chat. So if you want to learn more about the Kin blockchain later on, you can do a little bit of you can go on their website and check it out. All right. Thank you, Ahmad.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So, Othelia?
Yes.
Yeah, one last thing, which will finish the talk, which just would like to show how badges are represented here. So this is the kid profile, and in the kid profile in their wallet, they can see how much kin they own, but at the same time, they can see which badges they have earned. So this kid has earned the leaf badge, which is describing that he is a tree caretaker. So the kid has earned this through their parent because they bought this badge and assigned that badge to the kid. If they buy any sticker, they will find it here, or they can go to the shop where they can find the list of available sticker, and if they have the exact kin required, they can buy this sticker and own it as an asset. So basically, that's the end of the presentation. I would like to thank you all and thank Othelia for giving me and KiddoBank this chance to introduce KiddoBank and also introduce how to build cross-platform mobile apps using the Ionic framework. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ahmad. This was very interesting. Actually, let me put myself back into video mode. Yes, so this was a very interesting rundown on your app, not only from a dev side. I think you covered everything, all the way from like what the application will look like once properly built, but also the back end side. So if we have some attendees who are more prone to knowing how the coding works versus attendees who are more prone to just seeing how the app works, and then attendees who want to know everything, then I think you've really covered it all. And so we thank you so much for concluding our Toronto Blockchain Week with this talk. So what I'm going to do now is again I'm going to open up the line for any questions, and because we are not that many today, it's Sunday after all, so So what I'm going to do is, instead of having people type their questions in, I'm just going to open up the line for about 5 minutes or less and allow everybody to talk. So, and we can have a quick discussion if you are interested in doing that.
Probably I will just tell that the KiddoBank now on the KIN is actually on the production network. So I will invite everyone to use it. You can earn actual real KIN there if you answer those quizzes, and if you have kids, you can engage them and see how this works. But even if you are like just to try and earn some KIN, you can go there, create an account, and start using the app. I will try to share with you the link to the app on the Google Play, and you can use it.
Okay. So, all right. So, are there any questions that anybody would like to ask other than what has already been discussed? Andres? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I'm okay.
No.
I'm just wondering if it's going to share the presentation.
Yes. So, yes, the presentation will be shared later today or the latest tomorrow. So you'll be able to access them either through the Facebook page or the YouTube page. And whether you signed up through Eventbrite or through or meetup.com, you will be receiving an email with all the information you might need to access the recording.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. No further questions? All right, perfect. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us today. And thank you, Ahmad, for making this happen as well. And yes, we stay in touch, and I wish everybody a great beginning of next week. Bye.